Welcome to the Lifeboat. I will be your host this evening, Captain Tommy Scoville. We're going old school, people, and hold on a second. How's that? That's better. Professional action. Yeah. Well, we're going old school today. Mark Wages is going to be spending some time with family and friends, so I'm going to be doing this one solo. And for whatever reason, the light is really bright in my eyes tonight, so hopefully I'm not squinting. Let me get this squared away. Bear with me, people. When I go old school, it's a little bit more difficult. So let's do this and get this squared away, and we will get this show on the road. Here we go. That's it. Now we're cooking. There I am. So, since we're going old school, let's go over the rules. Number one, we don't talk about politics. Even if I agree with you, doesn't matter which side of the aisle you fall on, there are plenty of sites out there that are talking about politics, and with everything going on in the world today, let's leave it with those people to talk about, and we'll just avoid it here. Number two, we don't talk about religion. That's not to say that you can't say that you feel like God saved you, or that you're praying for somebody, or any of that. What we don't say are things like, my God's better than your God, or you're not going to get into heaven because you're doing X, Y, or Z. Those kind of things don't fly. Third, please keep the cursing out of the comment section. Obviously, because of the subject matter, this isn't a family-friendly show. It's not. We talk about adult subject matter. But we would like to believe that we can do it acting like adults, and we can leave that language somewhere else. Maybe the political shows. You can save it for there. Also, one of the things that we want to make sure is that we don't bring meanness, vitriol, and all of that garbage onto the lifeboat. It simply isn't allowed. We've run into problems before. For that reason, accounts that are brand new make us nervous. If you happen to be brand new, maybe you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us how you found the lifeboat. That might be a good idea. And then reach out to us, tell us who you are, and we'll welcome you into the fold here. And by new accounts, I mean not someone that just showed up here. I mean someone that created their account in the last 45 minutes. That makes us a little jumpy, as it's kind of hard to have found the lifeboat in that short of a period of time. With all of that said, done, and out of the way, let us start talking about the subject matter at hand. People, we did an awesome interview here on the Lifeboat. If you happen to miss it, we did it yesterday at about noon. It's still up there. You can check it out. We did it with Rip Curl Readiness, and he was nothing short of amazing. Rip shared the history of his drug problem and his treatment, and there was an awful lot of really good stuff that was discussed, and it brought up some issues. And earlier on today, I came on and I talked about some of the issues associated with medical assisted therapy, right? MAT, as it relates primarily to what Rip was talking about yesterday, which is opiate use disorder, right? So medical assisted treatment of opiate use disorder was what we talked about for a full hour and about 20 minutes yesterday. And it was a great interview. It really was. But it brought up a lot of things that make people think. And it also brought out of the woodwork some of the usual opinions that people like to weigh in on this subject matter. This is a subject matter that, for whatever reason, is near and dear to the hearts of many, many people. And they all seem to have an opinion. That opinion, more often than not, is based on nothing but opinion. And oftentimes we run into trouble with that. And what I mean by that is, it's okay to have your own opinion. It really is. It's usually a good idea, regardless of what that opinion is, if you base it on some facts. If you base it on something other than just, well, this is kind of how I feel. You're completely entitled to have any opinion you want, even if it is based on just how you feel. However, there's an old adage that appears in the good book, right? Judge not lest ye be judged. And I think that something that comes up so often in recovery is that once somebody gets a little bit of sobriety under their belt, Unfortunately, a lot of times they tend to lose sight of what it felt like to be addicted. And the farther we get away from active addiction, the less we seem to remember those days of that gnawing feeling that makes a person want to use. And when that happens, a lot of times people start to judge other people's sobriety. And very oftentimes, if that sobriety doesn't come down the exact same way that yours does, or that the person's does, I'm not picking on anybody in particular today, but very oftentimes the addict, if they don't feel like the person who just got sober chose the exact same path, I mean the exact same path, then they begin to judge that individual. And some of this, I think, goes back to the kind of personalities that drug addiction tends to draw. What I mean by that is pretty cut and dry. You know, how often do you hear people talk about addiction and they say, you know what, when I hit rock bottom, I drank a fifth and a half of bourbon and 14 beers, and I ate 6 pills, and, you know, I went out and acted stupid. And the next thing you hear is someone that says, well, that's nothing. I drank 4/5, 3 cases, ate a bottle of Percocet, and the next person says, well, that's nothing. That type of personality seems to be attracted to individuals who are in active addiction. And it seems to carry over somewhat into active recovery. And you get people who, when they talk about recovery, you get people who say, well, that's nothing. You know, the habit I kicked was 6 grams a day, and I did it cold turkey, just, using people. You know what? Who cares? Honestly, who cares how somebody stops using their drug? The drug that is enslaving them. Who cares how they stop? I think we need to guard ourselves to not judge how people get sober. Truthfully. And if that's something that you feel like you really got to do, then do yourself a phenomenal favor and do the community at large. And I don't just mean the boat. I mean the community of people in recovery. Do them a big favor and research the snot out of what you're talking about. Because very oftentimes what tends to happen is people come up with opinions, and these opinions are based on nothing other than the fact that they feel like they really put a lot of time and effort into their sobriety, and it was very painful, and it hurt, and everyone else should have to as well. People, if they come up with a pill tomorrow, and that pill will eliminate addiction in every person on the planet, right? All they got to do is swallow that pill. I would like to believe that everybody who is sober on this planet will stand up and cheer. I'd like to believe that everyone who has ever woke up in the morning needing a fix, or a drink, or a smoke, or a toke, or whatever you do, you snort, everybody should pump their fist in the air and say, thank God, right? Thank God. People, I don't have a drinking problem. For whatever reason. It's one of those, it's a type of drug use that never attracted me to it. I don't like drinking. It's never really been my thing. But that doesn't mean that if somehow they come up with a way for alcoholics to painlessly walk away from their addiction, or they cure it so that these people can become social drinkers, that shouldn't upset anybody, right? That should make everybody very, very happy. Everyone should be very pleased at the concept. I think sometimes people find almost a type of jealousy that there is treatment, medical-assisted treatment for specific types of addiction and not other types of addiction. I mean, let's be honest. If what you're quitting is methamphetamine, you're going to white-knuckle it. It's just the way it is. That doesn't mean that you should root against anyone who has an easier path. You don't judge anyone for what they went through, what they're going through, or what they are going to go through. It doesn't pay off. In fact, it erodes at the community of sobriety. You hear people say things, and very oftentimes the things that are said, I have heard so many people say, if a guy's on methadone, he's just getting high anyway. That's a really strong drug. He's just getting high. He's not really sober. People, if you haven't lived the life, and I don't mean the life that I lived, because mine is unique, his is unique, yours is unique. No one knows what anyone else is going through. Truthfully, I can sit down and talk to 500 people who were addicted to the exact same drug I was, who used the exact same way that I did, right? Smoked it, shot it, whatever the case may be. I still don't know what that person went through. Addiction is as unique as the person who is addicted. For that reason, if no other, treatment is just as unique. If you get 500 people who all get on methadone, you're going to get 500 different responses to that treatment. But we should cheer on anybody that walks away from whatever their drug of choice was. Please tell me you understand this. Now, I will tell you that the majority of you loved yesterday. And the majority of the feedback that I got was incredible. It really was. But then I got a handful of direct messages from people that said, you put a guy on that's still using. And I don't get it. I don't get it. I really don't. This was a person that needed a drug every single day, 3-4 times a day. And that drug had a myriad of side effects, one of which is it can kill you. Right? That's pretty damn serious. It can kill you. If we can take one of those individuals who is eating a substance that can kill you and remove them from that danger, don't we all win? Isn't that a win for the home team? I think it is. I think wholeheartedly it is. Now, if that person stays on medical-assisted treatment for the recommended 3 to 5 years before they then taper off and go about their life, I'm not going to judge that person any differently than I'm going to judge someone who gets to the 3 to 5 year mark and says, I don't think I can go without this. They're getting off of the getting high train and getting onto the getting treated train. The goal for everybody in this game should be treatment. The goal for everybody should be for everyone to be able to evaluate why we ended up addicted. Because more often than not, there is very serious psychological underlying problems that drive addiction. Sure, in some cases, people like getting high. But the truth of the matter is, when you really start to peel that layer away, there's a reason people really like getting high. We'll send this person a text and tell them that they just called in the middle of the you know what, I could pick on them, but I won't. The truth, people, is that no matter how you look at this, the goal should be, and always should be, to remove people from the death equation, to remove people from the enslaved equation. You understand? This is exactly what the goal ought to be. Currently, I'm in the middle of a live feed. I was going to take your call and embarrass you in front of the entire world, but instead I just thought I would tell you that I'm live right now on YouTube, and I will call you just as soon as I'm done. Hopefully things are good for you. God bless. The goal has to be for you to be able to remove the poison from the equation, because the important stuff, like figuring out exactly why you're getting high, is never going to happen when you're getting high. That makes sense? People don't have epiphanies as to what their underlying addictive behaviors come from while high. Doesn't happen. Ever. Ever. So we need to remove that individual from that lifestyle so that we can get them into treatment. The purpose of medical-assisted treatment, people, is to ensure that people can do just that. So that we can remove all of the stuff that confuses people. When you're high, you're not going to go seek treatment. When you're high, you're not going to try to figure out exactly what's going on in your life. When you're high, you're not going to work on the day-to-day things that need to happen so that you can live your best life. So how you stop the getting high process should matter about that much to everybody that has ever gotten high. However, it doesn't seem to be the case. And I realize that a lot of this I'm talking about is outside the boat. But you have to understand, people, that when we have this conversation, I'm going to have this conversation with the 20 or 30 people that are going to sit and listen to this tonight. But we're going to put this up for posterity forever. And we're going to hope, when I did the very first video, about 300 people wandered by to see exactly what it was Tommy Scoville was going to do and if I was going to eat peppers. Now thousands of people have seen that video. So more often than not, when we're doing one of these, it's in hopes that people other than the group, other than the crew, are going to come across and see this. And I think there's nothing, honestly, that does more of a disservice to people trying to get sober currently than one of the biggest things that we're fighting right now in the sobriety community is sober people. That's sad. It really is. That's sad. But there becomes this, well, I did it this way, you should have to do it this way kind of a mentality. People, hit your knees and pray. And if you don't pray, then send out the positive vibes. And if you don't do that, let's just hope that medical science continues to come up with one way after another to save 300 people a day from dying. If you missed my earlier video today, you know that 300 people a day is a lie. It's a lie. The number is considerably higher than that. A coroner's inquest won't make it into the statistics. Somebody that is so distraught that they can't go another day as an addict and they take their own lives by their own hand, that's not considered, someone dying from this epidemic, this drug epidemic. But believe me, it's someone dying from the drug epidemic. All of these different things that are taking people off of the planet are taking them off because of the drug epidemic. Those numbers are just people that they can test in their bloodstream and find out that they accidentally died. If a person takes 4 grams of heroin and injects it into them, but takes the time to write a letter saying, I'm not doing this anymore, that's a suicide. That's not a drug overdose. When you start wrapping all of this up, it is astounding just how many people we're losing. So whatever method that people can come up with to save one of those people a day, we need to clap. We need to get excited. The disservice that we do to people when we say things like, well, he's still getting high. Really? Have you done it? Have you? Because I can take 16 milligrams of this stuff every day and I don't feel a damn thing. That's me. So personally, and a really good indicator of this is if you have conversations with people who are on it. You people have been watching me make videos for a long time. Somewhere in the ballpark of 9,000 hours, right, has been watched of me doing these videos. That's about a year, by the way, of people watching this. Do I look wasted to you? Do I look like I got a buzz? Because I can assure you I don't. If what I was doing was going the other route, if what I was doing was coming here and doing heroin, you'd be getting this, right? You'd be getting one of those nods where I wouldn't be able to communicate with you. And I wouldn't be able to advocate for people that need someone to advocate for them. There wouldn't be this show without buprenorphine. And there are people who judge me for this. That's fine, honestly. But don't share it with other people that haven't gotten sober yet. Because if you convince somebody that they're just as good, you're just as well off doing heroin, what's the difference? Well, then shame on you, man. Honestly. That kind of thought and that kind of, chatter is not saving people. How do we end every one of these shows? People, between now and the next time I see you, reach out and try to save somebody. If you knew how often I get emails that say, I would love to do that if I knew how. Here's a good start. Don't judge people for how they get sober. Doesn't matter how they do it. And I'll tell you something. We talk about one kind of medical assisted treatment. There are so many kinds. It happens to be this that we're talking about now because Rip Curl did a really great interview on it. But we could talk about rapid opiate detox. This is some cutting edge stuff. What they do is they put you under. They bring a person in who is in active addiction. You know, someone has a 6-7 gram a day habit. They bring them in and they use drugs like propofol, right? The same kind of stuff that they would knock you out with if you were having back surgery. And they knock you unconscious. And then they shoot you full of Narcan. And what happens is you go through the entire process of a 14-day drug kick, right? 14 days of vicious withdrawal, and you do it in about 6 hours. But you're unconscious for that 6 hours. This is hope for a lot of people. There is a drug out there called Ibogaine. Didn't work for me, but there are people who swear by it. Ibogaine is a drug that you can take once. It is a 1-pill treatment. It has a very profound psychological effect on the person that takes it. The closest thing that you can compare it to would probably be something like mild LSD or mushrooms. You actually have hallucinogenic, you go on a trip. It's a trip kind of a drug. But when the trip is over, people just walk away and don't do opiates ever again. And there are a ton of people for whom that has worked. And for those people for whom it does work, they claim to never ever want it again. Good for them, right? Good for them. That should be available to everybody. If that's something that could work, it should be available to everybody. Rapid opiate detox works for some people. It's not cheap. It's not cheap at all. But it works for some people. Good for them. Good for them. There are people for whom, no joke, they go out in the woods and basically get as far away from human beings as possible, and they go camping and get viciously ill, and they tough it out and they white knuckle it. And for some people, they're able to then stay sober. Good for them. But it doesn't matter. None of that matters. All of it. Take it all. Roll it into a ball. It doesn't matter. What matters is the people can get into recovery, regardless of how they get to the point where they say, now I'm going to start working on the issues of my life. I'm going to get up every day and I am going to live my life without the chase of going to get drugs, without the crimes committed to go get drugs, without the risk of killing myself every single time I take a substance just so I don't get sick. Who cares how they get there? Right? Please, don't care. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. And it's the exact opposite of going out there and trying to save somebody. What you're doing is risking that the wrong person hears that and says, screw it, I'm not going there. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. All I'd be doing is getting high on a different drug. I'm not going to try that. Oh, God, please don't make that happen to anybody. You want that on your hands? For real. Because that's not blood I would want on mine. 300 people. 120 empty houses today. Do you care how we save any of those people? I certainly hope not. I certainly hope not. There are medical assisted therapies for alcohol. There are medical assisted therapies for tranquilizers. There are medical assisted therapies for opiates. There are many different routes that people can take to get sober. They're plain and simple, right? There's a lot that you can have a medical professional do to help you in the process of getting off. Not getting sober. Of getting off that train. Once someone gets off that train, this kind of thing, whether you're doing it here and in a comment section, or whether you're doing it sitting down in group therapy at an AA or an NA meeting, or whether you're doing it at a church group, or whether you're doing it anywhere else, that's how you get sober. figuring out what it was that drove you to need to drug your emotions. That's the key to sobriety. And that's the key to living your best life. When we talk about sobriety, I always break it into two different camps, right? You always hear me talk about being chemical free. That's not sober. That's chemical free. But you got to get somebody to chemical free before you can start the process of getting somebody sober. Hopefully this makes sense. Suboxone does not make people high. These folks are simply saying stupid things because they lack understanding. You know what? It's a nice way to put it. It's a nice way to put it. Because it is a lack of understanding. But the tough thing about this is we can talk about it till the end of time. But it always seems like no matter how much you educate somebody about something like this, in the back of their head, they always have that feeling that, maybe it was just too easy. You know what I mean? This person got high for 10 years. They should have to pay for that. They should have to hurt for that. Let me clue you in on something. It doesn't matter if you have all the money in the world. Doesn't matter. You could have all the money. You can be a rock star rich. The process of being a junkie, and I will use that word, the process of being a junkie is miserable. It's miserable even if you have the dope. It really is. It's that feeling of knowing that no matter what you do, you're enslaved. I used to go around the country, and I would go and work as a public speaker, and I'd be in a hotel one week, and then I'd be in a different hotel, and it didn't matter what I brought with me. It was never enough. And it always ended up down to a friend of mine who had to go get stuff and get it into FedEx, and you would sit and white knuckle and wait to see if the FedEx man got there. All of those things that put unbelievable stress on a person's life. When you think about people, don't assume that they're in the life and they're high and they're enjoying it and now it's time to quit. I promise you people that the fun, and most of you know this from whatever your drug of choice is, the fun ends really, really quick. Long before the addiction is over, the fun is. Long before then. It's probably coming from their hate toward big pharma, and ignorance. You know, there's a decent amount of hate that is pointed toward big pharma, and you know what? A lot of it is probably deserved. It really is. There's a lot that we can hate those people for. Until you realize that more people have died from malaria than anything else ever, right? That kills more people than anything in history. Malaria. And without big pharma, it would be killing everybody. Big pharma has done amazing things. Are they greedy? You betcha. You betcha. And does that greed make most of the planet hate them? Yeah. Have they done some really stupid things like the Porter-Glick study that didn't exist? Yeah. They've done a lot of really stupid things. And they've had to pump the brakes and then cut people off, and all of the things that Rip talked about yesterday is plenty of reason to hate them. But I'll tell you something. I wouldn't be here without them. I wouldn't. Without Big Pharma and their manufacturing facilities and all of that, I'm not here having this conversation right now. I'm in prison. I promise you. Because I'm one of those people that inside me is a gnawing that never stops. And the only thing that stopped it was a medication. Medication doesn't get me high. And there are people for whom they're never going to believe that. Or they'll say things like, well, what difference does it make? Because if you don't have it, you're going to get sick and you're a junkie one way or the other. If someone doesn't have insulin, they're in deep trouble. If someone doesn't have their heart pills, they're in deep trouble. If someone doesn't have their nitroglycerin, they're in deep trouble. If someone doesn't have, and I could just keep going, right? There are so many people who are treated for so many things. We need to get to a point in this world where we realize that treatments for anything should probably all be judged the same way. For real. If a person gets lung cancer because they smoked, they did things to bring that on. But you wouldn't say to them, well, that's what you get, right? That's what you get. Yeah, enjoy it. You had that coming. The only thing that ever works for is addiction. True? It's the truth. 80% of people in prison are in there because of drugs. Can you imagine if you made a joke about rape for any other situation, you said you thought rape was funny in any situation, you'd be a scumbag, right? You'd be the lowest form of humanity. Unless, of course, you make that joke about prison rape, and then it's funny, right? People say, hey, he's going to prison. Well, I hope he gets a big celly that really likes, right? A big celly named Bubba, who's amorous, who kind of loves him. Or the don't drop the soap, or all of those jokes. There's nothing funny about any of that. There isn't. We have got to a point where the people who suffer from this affliction, they end up incarcerated. The old adage is you're going to end up in one of three places, right? You're going to be incarcerated, you're going to be in treatment, or you're going to be dead. It's either the hospital, prison, or the morgue. But we'll clown on it. We'll joke about it. He went to prison. Yeah, hope he gets a big cellmate. That we need a whole lot more compassion when it comes to all of this stuff. We need a whole lot more compassion. And make no mistake, if somebody comes to the boat and they say, the thing I'm not able to stop is smoking weed, that's no less serious than someone who comes to the boat and says, the thing that I'm not able to stop is heroin. We get this thing in our head where we start to rate the addictions, right? And if somebody says something like, well, I'm having a hard time, quitting cannabis, we almost chuckle at that. People, if you can't quit anything, if some substance is ruling your life, that is worthy of love, it's worthy of compassion, and it should matter not what that substance is. It should matter not how you get it into your body. It should matter not what the decision was that got you to start it in the first place. All of those things cloud treatment. All of those things cloud our ability to treat people with compassion. And the beautiful thing is that many people, I totally understand. I have several friends who probably wouldn't be alive without Suboxone. All I care is that they are clean from street drugs. And I'm trying to get my nephew into that kind of treatment. Beautiful. Good for you, man. That's reaching out and trying to save somebody. It really is. And it's evidence-based treatment. Literally, that's what it's called. It is now called evidence-based treatment because the evidence says it works. The biggest problem is there is a stigma to it, the size of an anchor on a cruise ship. And we do a disservice constantly by perpetrating that stuff. I have watched individuals. I have watched more individuals in acute alcohol withdrawal than anything else. Because when you're incarcerated, when you first get to the jail, and you first get arrested, they're bringing people in off the streets who are drinking a fifth a day. To watch them go through what they went through, I don't know. I don't know that pain, but I remember watching it. And I'll tell you something. To go like this and say, well, heroin, that's way harder. This is beer. You can get that at a store. Forget all of that. Forget that. There is nothing on this planet that is a bigger waste than someone that leaves this planet because of drugs. Nothing. There isn't. The amount of potential that goes when we lose somebody to an overdose or a drunk driving car wreck or like that awful situation that happened with M. Hunt's friend, all of those things. Because life on this planet, as resilient as our body is, it's also amazingly fragile. And when a life gets snuffed out, it affects us. And the ripples from somebody that passes away, those ripples go out forever. They go out sometimes for generations. It's sad, right? I lost my dad this February. It was awful. This last February. It was awful. But when you lose somebody that you didn't have to, these are deaths that don't need to happen. These are people that should still be with us. Right? Since Rip's interview, 600 of them. People, Our default setting, congratulations, Brandon, our default setting has to be compassion. That's what our default setting has to be. It has to be compassion. And that means accepting every single way that somebody uses as a way to get sober. Right? It means reaching out to people. And it means doing everything within our power to save one or two people. In the scheme of things, it seems like a drop in a bucket. But it's a lifetime of hurt for families. You know, a lifetime of hurt. When somebody passes away, it affects people. When somebody passes away from drugs, the ripple effects off of that. There's nobody on this boat that doesn't know somebody that's overdosed or that died in a drunk driving car wreck or any of those things. And what happens? The people around them say, what could I have done to prevent that? It's not just the people who die, it's the people that are left behind. I mean, that kind of pain is just ridiculous. So please rise to the occasion and knock that crap off. If by some chance you're one of the people that sent me one of those emails, I would encourage you to do a couple of things. Number one, I would encourage you to read as much as you can about evidence-based treatment programs that are working. Read about them. Read about the lives that are being saved by them. That's number one. And if after doing that, you don't have a completely different mindset about this, then go out and do heroin for 2 months. Seriously. Go eat OxyContin every day for 2 months. 4 or 5, 6 pills a day for 2 months. And then cold turkey it. At that point, maybe you can make cast some aspersions. But it is amazing how often that these things come out of the mouths of people that have never used the substance that these people were enslaved by. We're better than that. We're better than that. I have said from the day that this channel got started that we're not just as good as everybody else. In so many ways, we're better. And the ways that make us better are the exact opposite of what I'm talking about. The fact that we are accepting of every single person that comes in. The fact that we immediately throw an arm around people, albeit virtually. We immediately throw our arms around people that come here and say, you know what, you're going to be okay. We've been there. You're going to be okay. That is amazing. The process that we go through, one of the things that Rip hit on yesterday that I thought was amazing is if people truthfully did walk a mile in the shoes that most of these people went through, whether it's alcohol, whether it's cocaine, whether it's meth, whether it's whatever, Brandon, right? Brandon deserves that we applaud his strength, his determination, right? The fact that he's sticking with it, the fact that he wants to be a better person. Because truthfully, when you get outside of the community of people who are in recovery, do you run into that many people who concentrate on a daily basis to try to make themselves better people? Because you sure as hell see a lot of it in recovery. I mean, how many people out in the real world are journaling each day to see if they're moving in the right direction? It's a pretty big deal to give this stuff up. Regardless of what this stuff is, it's a very big deal to give it up. This is a place where we are supposed to own our past and celebrate our victories, regardless of how small or how massive those victories are. Let us not belittle the victory of any single person who is working on sobriety because we think they took an easier road than we did. If it sounds like I'm beating a dead horse, I'm trying to. Seriously, this isn't the first time this has come up. It's not even the 5th time it's come up. Every time we dip our toe into this subject matter, I remember talking to Mark and saying, he said, what's the subject matter for tonight? I said, Matt. He said, medical assisted treatment? I said, yeah. He goes, you know what's going to happen, don't you? It's pretty sad that that's first thing that comes to mind, is that we're going to get all kinds of people who are going to come out of the woodwork to say how we're encouraging people to get high. You people have been watching me for a long time. Do you remember any shows where I encouraged anyone to get high? Do you? I don't remember doing that show. I don't. I don't remember busting anyone's chops for it either. But I most assuredly don't remember a show where I said, go ahead, get high. Seriously, that'll work out for you. No. I spent the first half of my life getting high, and in the process, getting a lot of people high. I spent the first half of my life ensuring that a lot of people stayed in the life. Because if you were within my sphere of influence, you were getting high. And if you couldn't afford it or you weren't doing it, chances are I was stealing, and I was probably doing enough crime so that me and my partners could all do drugs. That's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Some of those people aren't with us anymore. And that's shameful. And that's something I will own with the rest of my past for my entire life. And I'll tell you something, people. You were watching when I said I was on my way to getting a master's, and the school that I went to said, you're not coming here because of your past. I own my past. I do. I don't hide from it. I don't lie about it. I talk about the things that I have done that I got incarcerated for. I talk about the things that I've done that I didn't get incarcerated for. I'm very open with my past. Make no mistake, people. Society will not let you forget that past. This is something that I live with every day. And I'm not exaggerating. It comes up so often you can't know. I'm not going to dive down the rabbit hole, but it came up again today. Another example of me getting bounced out of something that I was trying to do solely because of what I've done in my past. And I want to yell, I run a sobriety channel. You know, I want to yell, I do everything I can to keep people from doing drugs. The truth of the matter is, society isn't going to forgive a lot of the things that we've done. So we better damn well forgive one another for the things that we've done, and we better treat one another like brothers and sisters, and we better help everybody we can, regardless of whatever road they take to sobriety. Whether they go rapid opiate detox, whether they go cold turkey, whether they go white knuckle, whether they go Suboxone, Subutex, methadone, right? Anabuse, tapering off. Who cares? And I know that the majority of the people that are listening to me right now are the top of the food chain when it comes to being kind. Honestly. I used to use Chi-Chi as the example. I'd say we need our default setting ought to be Chi-Chi. I saw her name in here today. So obviously, I mean, I'm not preaching to everybody. In fact, more than any other place, this really is an oasis of kind. It's an oasis of love in an environment that is so often filled with hate. Truthfully. You know what, seventh son? Tommy, I guess you're going to have to lead with it. Seventh son, if you knew how often I have said to myself, you know, I like that cat more all the time. I'm not kidding. We've come a long way together in the time that I've been doing this show. I mean that. You so often say the right thing at the right time that it's almost scary. You know, and there's a lot of people here like that. There really are. There are a lot of people. Thank you, Cindy. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Let me knock out one or two other things here since I'm on a rant. Yes, Tommy, it's hard for me not to hate back sometimes. Leisure, I get it, bro. I get it. I really do. I get it. It is difficult. It is difficult. So let's go over one other thing. People on this boat are going to stumble. People on this boat are going to fall down. People on this boat are going to relapse. They're going to use. They're going to get high. They're going to get drunk. Right? They're going to say stupid things. They're going to do all kinds of things. We don't kick people off of the boat for any of those things. Right? We don't kick people off of the boat for doing drugs. We don't kick people off of the boat for things that they do while they're doing drugs. So if by some chance, 2 days from now, one of you gets drunk, don't send an email that says you're going to leave the boat. I don't want you to leave the boat. Ever. Ever. There's so few things, honestly, that get people booted out of here. If you say things viciously hateful while sober, I don't need you around. But if the errors you make are caused by drugs or alcohol, why would we want you gone? For the love of everything good, why would we want you gone? And the only reason I'm bringing this up, people, is because I've had dozens and dozens of emails since we started this boat, and I don't know that I've ever said this on the air, but I get dozens and dozens of emails from people that say, I screwed up, I'm not coming back. Of course you are. Of course you are. Teresa, is that, you know what? I can't read that. I'm sorry, I can't. I don't have my glasses. I got everything done. I'm ready for the wins. All right. Glitter Cannon Salute. Can't go wrong with the Glitter Cannon Salute. People, thoughts and prayers. M. Hunt could use our thoughts and prayers. He's going through a tough time. He came on here and he talked about what happened on the in the live feed. It's a very difficult thing to wrap your brain around. That kind of negativity is difficult. Really difficult. So if we could keep him in our thoughts and prayers, we still want to keep Mark and his family in our thoughts and prayers. They're still recovering from the math. And everyone else that is out there suffering. No apologies for asking for that. If it offends, you know what? Get over it. Seriously, all we're trying to do is what we can do that is the most positive for these people who are fighting the good fight on a day-to-day basis. That's the goal of the boat. Let's continue on that path, shall we? Seriously. I'll take it. Fiona, I will take all of the thoughts and prayers that I can get. I'll tell you, people, it's an ebb and flow. What we do for a living. T. Prada, great to see you. It is an ebb and flow, what we do for a living. When we feel like we're saving people, you can sort of, skip along and things feel fantastic. When you feel like you're not quite getting that done, it's a little bit more difficult. I'm not going to lie to you. Yesterday, that'll buy you a month of feeling great. Seeing him come on here and do the interview that he did. Brandon says, like me, I got drunk on New Year's Eve, got a hold of Tommy when I was drunk. You know what? And hopefully I wasn't cruel to you or anything else. But, so often people say, I let the boat down. No, you didn't let the boat down. This is, we're not trying to give anyone a pass when we say it is part of the process. It doesn't mean, go out every couple of days and, get drunk because it's part of the process. Obviously, we want to try to abstain. But if you stumble, we don't want you to leave. I mean, Brandon, I kind of look at it that, in the last 3 months, you had 2 missteps. That's a whole lot better than getting drunk every day. You know what I mean? It really is. It's, as far as I'm concerned, you're killing it. You know what I mean? You're really doing well. And the most astounding thing to me is, and this came up yesterday in the interview that I did with Rip as well. When you start being inclusive and you start bringing people in and you start really treating people well, the level of honesty among people is incredible. Captain, don't let the haters get you down. This core of Chi wannabes will be here to have your back and to keep the boat on course and save as many people as possible. Honestly, I appreciate that. I really do. And I think I've gotten really good at, I've insulated myself beautifully. I just don't go look at any of the crap anymore. It's not, those haters are good. Let them do what they do, honestly. I mean, it's juvenile is what it is. And it's almost laughable. The stuff that gets me down is when it happens within the boat. You know what I mean? When I get messages and emails from people within the boat who say, don't encourage people to do Suboxone. They're just getting high. That one makes me want to punch a wall. I'll be honest with you, because I've come to expect a certain bar on the boat. And it's your fault, because you people set that bar this high. And then you raised it. And then you raised it. And what you all are capable of doing, and the amount of love and the amount of caring that you guys pour out onto people that show up on the boat is astounding. And I marvel at it constantly. I really do. I marvel at it, because it's so consistent, and it's so loving, and it's so caring that whenever there's a misstep anywhere in that, it absolutely floors me. And that really is what it is. But your heart is caring and unmatched, Chi-Chi. Oh, and Chi hugs. Chi hugs. I'll tell you what, my heart's come a long way. I'll give you that. My heart has come a long way. And I credit the boat for a lot of that. I really do. I mean, my healing process started 6.5 years ago. But the part of the equation that I missed a lot of while incarcerated was this. We had group sessions that we did while I was in there. I worked with a lot of individuals who were trying to get sober. But the level of caring and the level of love and concern, even if people want to act that way when you're incarcerated, most people feel like they got to put up a front that they're the toughest guy in the world. And, you just don't see that kind of caring. And don't get me wrong, there were pockets of it, and I've talked about this in the past, where the humanity sometimes, while you're inside, is just, is something that sticks with you for the rest of your life. However, the default setting inside is hate, anger, racism, bigotry, just the stuff that goes on in there. Oh, Squirrel Nut just got up for a brief second. People, when I say that every time I do one of these, the cat's in the basket, I kid you not. Squirrel really is the cabin cat. This cat just sits here. If I film, she jumps up, lays down in the basket, and goes to sleep. She's just, of course, she's just saving up so that later on tonight she can go ballistic and tear the house in half. And by the way, I could film this cat fetching for 2 hours. As long as I'm willing to play the game she is. Honestly, it's gotten to the point this morning. I'll tell you just a quick story, but this morning I was laying in bed and Squirrel jumped up with a hair tie. Not exactly sure where she found it, but a little elastic hair tie in her teeth. And I took it, used my thumb and just sort of shot it off the bed. And there was no getting back to sleep. That cat would jump off the bed, cruise out of the room because I was shooting it out the doorway, and hop back up with it in her teeth. And I probably did that for 45 minutes and I was trying to shoot it somewhere where she couldn't get at it. That really is what I was going for. Unfortunately, she managed to continue to find it, so it made sleeping this morning a little bit difficult. And people, while asking for prayers, I've been having a lot of sleep issues. So you could pray for that. I'll take it. I've been having a lot of issues with sleep, and it's one of those things that hold on one second here. Jesse Stinson would like to know any personal opinions on you personally. As a rule of thumb, Jesse, most of the time, with very, very few exceptions, my opinion on almost everybody on the boat is pretty close. I've been honest that there are people that have kind of risen from the ranks just because of the fact that for whatever reason we gel. Alan Ballantyne and I have really hit it off. Mr. T and I have really hit it off. And by the way, he's dropping weight like you wouldn't believe. Super proud of Mr. T. There are certain individuals for whom I just sort of meshed with. But I'm glad that you're here. I really am. I think that with everybody on the boat, when you first get here, and you've been in and out, right? So you didn't just get here, but there's a process that everybody gets as they sort of mesh in with the group. And one of the things that is difficult, I think, for a lot of people when they first get here or when they first start to assimilate into the group is that there's certain stuff that is really logical that logic doesn't always prevail on YouTube. So there's been one or two times where you've asked the question completely legitimately, but it scared the crap out of a couple of other people because like a question like where do your kids live is never an issue anywhere else. But because of the kind of things that people have already done to my family, it scared people. It doesn't scare me, Jesse, because I know who you are. And I found myself saying that to people because a couple of people afterwards said, hey, man, why does that guy want it? And I said, hey, Jesse's a good dude. You just don't know him. You know what I mean? Jesse's just sort of getting here and meshing in with the group. But that happens a lot. There's a lot of things that people bring up that in the real world would be fine. But I don't live in the real world anymore. The vehicle that I have chosen to help people get sober is bizarre, right? And it's being famous without being famous. You know what I mean? Like I can walk down the street and it's very, very rare that someone's going to go, hey, it's Captain Tommy Scoville. It has happened, but it's pretty rare. However, I'm still doing everything that I do on film. So I spend a really heavy amount of time, like this year so far, right? We're not even a half a year old, but we've gotten, we've got an entire year's worth of people watching the lifeboat. There's over at 24 hours a day, the clock never stopping. This channel has been watched an entire year. That's kind of creepy, isn't it? I mean, it's a lot of time. It really is. Later, folks, back to work for me. Cemetery, take care of yourself, brother, please. So it's, like I said, it's like being famous without being famous. I just sort of have to, sort of guard myself. It's strange, but it's kind of, it now comes with the territory. And that's the way it is. I love all of you so much. Thank you for being my chosen family, even if I am a little distant. That's me. But I'm here always. I love this boat. Chi-Chi, I don't think distant is the right word. I think it's when you're here, you're most assuredly not distant. It's just that I think you got a lot going on. And that's also the defining characteristic of everybody on the boat. People, when I'm done with this live feed, it's going to pop up and tell me how many people stopped by. When you see the count and it says there are 20 people here, or there's 25 people here, there's 30 people here, and that number doesn't seem to move much, it's constantly moving. 2 people are leaving, 2 more people are coming in. 2 people are leaving, 2 more people are coming in. So it'll say that there have been 67 views, but it'll say there's been 130 playback. So it's, the number of people that just stop in. If we had everybody show up on the same day, it would be terrifying. Whenever Mark says, boy, that was a really good night. We had 38 people throughout the entire show. I can go, this person, 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 this person weren't there. Easily rip 10 of them off the top of my head. There's no way that you can expect every single person in the crew to show up every single day. The only person that really has to do that is me. The rest of the crew comes here and sort of as a maintenance program. They come here, they sort of get enough to keep going, and then, they go and sort of do what they do. So it's just kind of one of those situations. The lifeboat is getting out to the world, even if they haven't introduced themselves yet. I'm sure they are beginning to start a spark in the back of their minds. Oh, honestly, I believe that wholeheartedly. And the proof is that people come back all the time and say things like, you know what, I was there a month before I said anything. You know what I mean? So we get that kind of thing a lot. We also, people, I don't bum out when the numbers drop. And and you can't get too excited when they go the other direction. But right now we're on the upswing. The numbers, we've got people that are enrolling. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's the new year. So people are setting New Year's resolutions. A lot of that has to do with the fact that we're putting more consistent product out these days. We were gone for a while, and now we're consistently here again, day in, day out. But the boat is growing. The crew is growing. We've got new members, which is exciting. It's not about keeping score. It really isn't. It's about saving. But if you want to keep saving people, you kind of get, you know what, Seventh Son? I could count on one hand the number of lives that you've missed. There's no question. There are individuals, like I freak out if I don't see you in the comment section. I really do. I start getting really worried. And Miss V. I don't think Miss V's missed one since she started coming here. And there's a lot of there's a core group. There really are a core group that don't miss a whole lot of them. But then there are the Rip Curl Readiness. Boy, thank goodness he just got here because we have been talking trash about you all night. Thank goodness. If he had gotten here earlier, can you imagine? I'm kidding, Rip. Good to see you. Really had a good time with you yesterday, brother. I really did. That was a great interview. If aliens are real and are smart enough to get to us, I'm sure they are smart enough to steer clear of our trigger-happy species. That's funny. That is really, really funny. People, we have gone a little over the 1 hour time limit. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Thoughts and prayers for Mark and the family, and for everyone who's suffering with the math. Cat in a basket. And I would like to thank everybody, truthfully, to everybody that gets it. To everybody that gets it and realizes that this really isn't just this isn't a fight for views. It's a fight for souls, and it's a fight for lives. And for those of you, seventh, and the people that show up here day in, day out, and continue to spread the word about what we're doing here on the lifeboat, there's just no way to thank you. There really isn't. The best I can do is to keep coming here and every once in a while saying how much you all mean to me. But I'm going to be here again tomorrow night at this time. With any luck, Mark will be back. We'll see. Between now and then, people, you know what I want you to do. I want you to reach out there and try to save somebody. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville. This is The Lifeboat. Have a great night.